called 8th Street at that time. And that was a popular hangout for the teenagers there. The Daisy Dell was out by the Canyon Lake, but we didn't go out there too often. The A&W was a little handier, so we'd go there more. And we liked root beer better.
Walking distance.
Yeah. But I didn't have a car, and my buddy Sonny Barons and Kurt Moorhead, more than anything, they were my chauffeurs. And Kurt, he'd always kid me. He'd say, I've got you up on the tab here now on my meter for about $3 million, and I'm going to collect one of these days. And I thought he forgot all about that. And the first time I saw him in 1984, when I finally caught up with him again, found out he was in Missoula, Montana. That was the first thing he told me. He says, when are you going to pay me that $3 million you owe me? But he used to haul us around a lot, and I was very fortunate to have two good friends like that were able to give me transportation. But we'd go to the A&W, and well, like we say, we had free movies, so that was good entertainment. And they had a whole chain of theaters through the Black Hills. They had two theaters in town, the Elks and the Rex, were the Black Hills Amusement Company. Then they had a theater in the Hot Springs and a theater in Deadwood. Or Lee, one of the two.
Somewhere up there in the hills.
And the drive-in theater of out by the air base.
That was a Starlight. That's where that was, out by Ellsworth?
Yeah, that was on the road. About where you camped out this summer.
Oh, near where the berry patch
Where the berry patch is. That was real close to that. It's not there anymore, so it's kind of hard to say exactly where it went. But one night we went out there, and this time I was driving. I borrowed my brother's Model A, my brother Jim, and we went out there, and this was the night, the day that Florence's parents had moved from the walkout basement on 5th Street, across from Hot and Marge's house there on 5th. They lived in a walkout basement.
Up a few blocks north of where they live now.
About a mile from where they live now, maybe a little less.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it's that far.
You go over up St. Patrick, down, and come back up again, and it's right up there.
Yeah.
But they moved out to the house that Joyce still lives in now, and they moved there that day, and everything was a shambles, and Joyce told Flo it was all right to go to the show that night. So we went out there, and we had a flat tire, but I didn't have a spare. And no, I had a spare, but I didn't have a jack. For some reason, Jim didn't have the jack in there. He'd taken it out, I guess. So we're trying to figure out what the devil are we going to do, you know. It was about 5 miles into town, I think. And so Sonny, he was on the track team, and he said, well, I'm the runner in the place. And he says, you guys stay here. And he said, I'll run down and get my car. It's got a jack in it, and I'll bring it back on my dad's car, or his dad's car. And I'll bring that out and we'll jack it up. So he took off running. He was a mile runner. And he was going down the road there, and he said some guy saw him running and stopped and picked him up. He figured there was something wrong with the guys running on the highway at night, that late at night. And he gave him a ride downtown, and then so he got the car and came back out. So we didn't get home until about 3 o'clock in the morning. And Florence's mother, Joyce, she was a little upset.
I would guess.
She was such a worrywart anyway, and she was sure we'd all been robbed and killed and thrown on the side of the highway or something. But when Florence told her what the problem was, we'll smooth that over. So that was one of the dates. One of the things we used to do in high school, Florence never got involved in that, but that was before I knew her. And Kurt Moorhead, he was living with his granddad, and his grandfather, Lars Meschheim. And he was from Hendricks also.
He was what?
He came from Hendricks.
Oh.
And he worked at the courthouse. He was the custodian there. And he took care of the cleaning of the courthouse. Then he lived up on the roof of the courthouse in just a little cubicle up there. It was just a little concrete box, no windows or anything, just a door.
Wow. They
had a couple of beds and a hot plate in there. Most of the time they had a contract with New Maid's Ice Cream downtown on Main Street near 8th. That he'd get all these meals down there, and then he paid them by the month. And so Kurt, every once in a while, he'd invite me to come and have supper with him down there. And this is the only place I've ever seen that served licorice ice cream.
Oh.
And I eat it. It tastes like licorice, and I ate it more for the novelty of it than anything. It looked like vanilla they dropped down through a stovepipe. It's kind of gray.
It's kind of sooty gray, yeah.
And so he and I would get together there once in a while. Never could get him to come out my house, so he wouldn't come and eat with us. He always get me to eat with him. And then Sunday night, we'd go down there, we'd get a hamburger and a malt, and then we'd go drive up on Skyline Drive and sit up there and listen to Red Skelton on the radio.
Oh.
And I was worried about him running the radio without the car running because I said, oh, he's going to run that battery down. You know? But the radios don't draw that much
They draw too much energy.
Wasn't the problem.
I would think too, with it being downhill, you could always just roll it and pop the clutch.
Oh yeah, that wasn't any big problem. But that was one of our entertainments. And what I started to tell before I got off on that tangent there was that in the wintertime, we'd go to hot springs to go swimming in the plunge down there because it was a hot water spring there, and the water was hot all the time. We come right out of the ground. In fact, where it came out of the ground, it was too hot to swim in. It was about 200 degrees there. And then they mixed it, the creek ran right through there, and it mixed with the creek. And for the plunge, all they did was just cement the sides, and they put a corrugated tin building over the water.
Yeah.
And you get down there in the wintertime, you get out of that water, boy, you got dressed in a hurry. That was cold.
Yeah, I bet.
We were down there, but that was, like I say, that was for Dave Florence. There's usually about 6 of us get together and go down there, Kurt would drive. Then we go down and go swimming, then we come back. And we went down one time, and this other guy that ran around with us, Dale Shore, he got tired of swimming, so he got out. He went in and got dressed. He was wearing engineer boots and blue jeans and a t-shirt, wool plaid shirt, and a leather jacket. And he's walking around out there waiting for us to get out, getting kind of bored. He decides he's going to go across the pool on the rings. So he gets
Fully
out.
dressed?
Fully dressed. He got out there in the middle and he made a grab for the next ring, and the one he was hanging onto was wet. And he come down and I can still see the look in his face. His eyes were as big as saucers. And he hit that water and he comes shooting out of there, and he had to go in and sit around. There was a pot-bellied stove in there. He had to go in there and wring his clothes out and get them dried out as best as he could around that pot-bellied stove. But I say that was really a funny thing. But that was our winter fun. And it was more the novelty of swimming in the winter, I think, than it was just doing it.
Yeah.
But we were riding down there that one time, and I had this was just, I think, in the summer we went down. I was sitting there in the car with Kurt, on the passenger side, got my elbow out the window, and a bird flew right smack into my elbow. Boy,
that was you?
Yeah.
I thought that was Chuck that happened.
Yeah, that was me. I don't know, it might have happened to Chuck too, I don't know, but it happened to me. That hurt.
Oh, I bet.
I pity the poor bird. It hurt him more than it did me.
Yeah. Bird clearly came out the loser on
He
that
came out the
one.
loser on that one. But trying to think of things of flown I did that kind of hard to come up with things when you haven't stopped and thought about it a little bit.
Well, I suppose you guys went to the, like you said, to the movies and stuff. And
Jim was kind of my mentor. Anything he did, I'd do. And we were living in St. Joe there, and I just turned 13, and they'd opened up a new teenage club that year. That was the first year. And it was right next to the Rex Theater in the old building there. And they had a contest of choose a name for our club.
Mm-hmm.
And out of all the names, they picked the one called Cactus Patch. I don't know why they picked that. Never did see the reasoning for that, but that was the name they picked. Maybe that was the only name was turned in, I don't know. So we used to go up there a lot. We could go in there and play pool and listen to music, and they had soft drinks there, and they'd had the facilities to warm up hot dogs. They had ping pong, and you could sit around and just have a good time and not get in trouble.
Uh-huh.
And it was a good situation.
Mm-hmm.
Then the USO Club was across the street in the Duhamel building on the second floor.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if they built a new USO or just wasn't getting enough customers to keep it open, so they shut it down anyway. And the Cactus Patch moved over there. And that was a good place to go in the afternoon when you got out from school before I started working at the theater. And we'd go over to sit there, and they had marble-topped booths along one wall where the tabletop was made out of marble. And I asked old Ted, the guy that run the place there, I said, is it okay if I draw on the table? He said, well, as long as you wash it off before you leave, and I don't want you leaving it dirty. So I'd get a wet towel from him, and I'd go over there and I'd sit and draw pictures on the table, and we'd sit around and talk, and joke and listen to music. So it was good entertainment.
What kind of pictures did you draw?
Oh, just doodle, mainly.
Cartoons, that kind of
Yeah,
thing?
cartoons or squares or whatever, you know, I just doodling a lot. And
What was this Daisy Dell you were talking about?
well, that was another drive-in out.
Oh, it was a drive-in theater?
Yeah, no, it was a drive-in,
Oh, restaurant?
well,
Like a
hamburger
fast
joint,
food, yeah,
fast food place.
Mhm.
And that was where Andre Kaiser worked,
Oh,
the gal that come up with Patty this summer. And I didn't know that at that time. In fact, I didn't know her. I knew her brother. He was in my class. And they lived only a block away from me. And I didn't particularly like him, so I didn't go over there very often. He was kind of a know-it-all, smart-mouth guy. And he was like that to the day he died. But that's another whole other story.
Yeah.
But the Daisy Dell, we'd go out there once in a while. If we were going out by Canyon Lake, we'd stop out there and have an ice cream or something. Those days, nobody ever had very much money, so it was a boon to me to get that work in the theater there. Well, Harlan Fitchell and I had quite a gimmick there that we used. In the wintertime, when it was blizzarding and stuff outside, well, they'd open up the ticket booth door on the inside. They had it like a Dutch door. They could open the top half, and the people could come inside and buy their tickets at the cashier there. Well, there was a return, cold air return on the vent for the furnace right there in front of the door. So Harlan and I, we just flipped that open, and anybody dropped change, it went right down in the hole. So we get out of the school in the afternoon, we buzz down to the theater, and that's the first thing we do is we'd open up that vent in the wintertime and shine a flashlight down there. We usually find a quarter or something down there. And then we'd, didn't have anything to do there at the theater, we'd go on over to the bowling alley. You could bowl a line for 12.5 cents, so a quarter covered two of us to bowl the line. So we'd go over and bowl a line. I worked all over that town. I worked one day in the bowling alley. Heidi O'Mara was the guy that owned it, and he lived right across the street from us on St. Joe. And Mom used to laugh at me. She said, you never cease to amaze me. You get up in the morning and say, well, I'm going to go out and get a job. And he said, you'd come home in the afternoon, you'd have a job. You never worked there very long, but I'd work a couple of weeks, get tired of it, and quit. And I got my Social Security number when I was 12 and a half.
Wow.
And I started working there at Becker's Drug. That was my first job.
First place, hauling trash or something?
Yeah, I was carrying the trash buckets up out of the basement. Made my mother worry. She thought those were too heavy for me. I shouldn't be carrying those. But I only stayed there a couple of weeks. I got tired of that work. I talked to my brother Jim. I said, hey Jim, how'd you like to have a job? And he was kind of bashful. He wasn't very outgoing, and he wouldn't go out and ask for anything like that on his own. So I said, I'll tell you what, we'll go down there and I'll talk to my boss. And if it's okay with him, you can just take my place. So he went down there with me the next day, and old Mike Becker, the guy that owned the place, I come up to him and I said, I introduced Jim to him, and I said, this is my brother Jim, and I'd like to know if it'd be all right if he worked in my place. And, well, Mike, I just don't recall what happened, but he agreed to it. And so Jim took over. Jim stayed there for 4 years.
Wow.
And let's see.
Well, Jim worked at Ellsworth. I know this is.
Yeah, that was when he got out of the Army. Uncle Ralph worked out there and helped Jim get in there.
Oh.
Jim, when he first got out of service, he went up to Leith. He worked in the gold mine up there. But he liked rocks and stuff, but he just didn't like that kind of work down there, so he quit that job.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when Ralph got him into the air base. Ralph was doing air conditioning and refrigeration work out there, and he was able to put a word in for Jim. And so Jim stayed there until he retired. I think he had 33 years or something like that with the company. He wanted to retire at 30 and out, but he said he had the numbers and everything right for it. But they threw a stipulation in there that you had to be 55 or older.
Oh.
And he wasn't that 55 yet, so he worked till he's 55 and then retired.
So he hasn't worked out there in a long time then.
No, he's been gone quite a while now. I don't remember just how long. It's been over 10 years, I know that. That he's been retired. But, like I say, I went out to the air base and put in an application out there to work out there in the sign shop or painting or anything. And they didn't have any openings at that time, but they had me take a painting test. They wanted me to do make a sign for them. I didn't know anything about making signs, so I sat down there, I drew each letter out. The guy said, "Do you have to draw them out like that?" I said, "Yeah, that's the only way I do it." I said, "Okay." He said, "We don't have any openings right now," but he said, "We'll put you on file." So we moved up to Minneapolis, and been up there about a year. I get a card in the mail saying, "Hey, we have a job open in the sign shop if you want it." I said, "Well, if you're a little too late, I'm working up here. I'm not going to quit. Go back there."
You were working there. Now, you moved to Minneapolis with the idea of going to the art school? Was that?
Yeah, that was the reason we went there. I had the GI Bill available to me, and I wanted to do something in the art line. That was what I decided that I wanted to make. So I thought I'd become a commercial artist. And so I went into the Minneapolis School of Art to get training to become a commercial artist. And we got up there, and Florence and I were married then, and she was pregnant. Let's see, this is 1953, and August of 1953 we moved up there. And the amount of money they gave, the tuition was so high that I couldn't afford to pay it all in one whack. I had to take it in payments, and they were only giving me, I think, $100 a month. I didn't have a job to pay my rent or anything, so I had to try to figure out how to pay the rent, and how to buy food, and gas, and
all that other
upkeep on vehicles, and still pay the tuition too. And I just kept getting a little farther behind. So by February of '54, I went in. I told him, I said, "I'm going to drop out of school. I just can't make it bill-wise." And I couldn't find a job that would fit into the schooling, the amount of classes and everything I was taking. So I dropped out of school, and I got them to transfer my schooling over to on-the-job training. And I went in as an apprentice sign painter. And I was 20 years old then, and they said they weren't supposed to take anybody for apprenticeships over 20, but being as I'd been in service and everything, they were going to make an exception, and I was able to be picked up at the Agarn Signs Company. And he trained his two journeyman sign painters there had been apprentices the same way through the on-job training. And it was a way for him to keep his expenses down because I got a check from the government that made it easier. He didn't have to pay me as much per hour. He had a limit. I was supposed to get a percentage of the journeyman's wage. The only drawback was that dropped every 6 months, and or every quarter. The amount of money the government gave me dropped every quarter, And then he didn't give me a raise until every year. So at the end of the year, I was making considerably less than I was in the first of the year.
Ooh.
That's when all your Christmas bills and licenses and all that stuff were showing up. So it made it a little tough, but worked there for $35 a week, learned to be a sign painter. And went through 1953, I hired in there, I forget which month it was, but it had to be right around February, until May of 57. That was when we packed up and moved out to come to California. We stopped in Rapid City for 3 months, and I worked for Carl Kurtz as a sign painter there. And when I talked to him about a job, he said, well, I don't really have the desire to have to do the bookwork on hiring somebody to work for me. And he says, I do have a lot of work, I could use the help. He says, if you want, we could do it on a contract basis, like you're self-employed, and I'll just farm out work to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked there, it's about 3 months, and the primary work I did there was paint wall drug signs. And the trouble with the sign painting in Rapid City is you got the phones jumping off the hook all summer, where you turn the work down, and in the winter nobody wants to do anything.
Mm.
So you're starving all winter and turning down work in the summer.
Mm.
But when I got ready to go to California, Carl was going on a vacation with his family. He was going to be gone for 6 weeks, so we decided that a good time to separate company there.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave me $60, $70 extra. He says, I really appreciate the job you did for me, and being I wasn't paying you any Social Security or benefits of any kind, he said, I'll give you a little extra money for that.
Mm.
So it was nice to get extra money, but it didn't really cover what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, with that in mind, I overhauled that old 47 Dodge I bought from Minneapolis to get the furniture down to Rapid City. Jim helped me overhaul that thing, and when we opened it up, the cylinders were scored so bad that it was really a lost cause. Jim says, we can try to hold them out, but I don't think it's going to do much good. It'll probably get them all out of round and everything. And I said, well, we'll go ahead and throw a set of rings in it. The bearings were tight enough on the crankshaft, so we didn't do anything to that. And so we put her back together and fired her up, and I drove that out towards California. Then luckily my cousin James was going to California at the same time, and he offered to take Flo and you two guys along with him. And I had so much stuff in that van that I didn't really have room for anymore. I'd had to throw out some stuff to get you guys in there. So it worked out pretty good, and then I worked my way to California anyway. I didn't really have enough money to go all the way. So
Or do you stop in town?
I painted signs on the side of the truck, and I'd drive through town, stop and made a little sign here, a little sign there. And I stopped in Cedar City, Utah for a week. There was a new car dealer there that saw me coming through town, and he jumped in his car and followed me out and was honking his horn at me. And I said, what the hell's wrong with this guy behind me? I kept sticking my arm out the window and waving him around. He just wanted me to pull over. And so I went ahead and I pulled over, and he came up and he says, hey, I need some signs painted. I saw your name on your truck. So we went back there, and I said, I don't have any supplies other than just paint. I said, we'll have to buy up some materials to make these signs on. He said, do you care what you paint them on? I said, well, it depends. I went, well, you got something in mind? He said, yeah, I got a whole bunch of old airplane wings. Oh. And so I painted signs on airplane wings, and he put them out on the highway. And I did about a week's work for him there, and then I took off. And I got down just before I got to St. George, Utah. The wheel fell off my truck and rolled it. So it was a good thing you guys weren't with me, or somebody got hurt in that. I got a bump on the head and a scratch on the back out of it.
Basically all the sheet metal kind of...
Yeah, that truck was so rusted out from being up in Minnesota with the salt on the roads and stuff that it flipped 1.5 revolutions, so it was sitting with the wheels up. And when they flipped it over to drag it up out of the ditch there, all the metal from the frame up to the windshield just fell away. And so I had a flatbed truck there with a windshield but nothing else behind it. So they hauled it down to the wrecking yard down there, and then I got a ride into town with the wrecker, and I called my dad and told him what had happened. So he and my cousin James got in the car, and they came out from Arcadia and pulled the trailer out there, a little 2-wheel trailer. We loaded all my stuff in there.
All the stuff you're able to salvage?
Yeah. And he says, what are they going to give you for your wreck? And I said, the guy said he'd only give me $25. Dad said, let's go out and take a look at it. So I went out there, took a look at it, and Dad looked, the tires are on it. He said, well, the rest of it ain't worth much. He said, but those tires are worth more than that. So he went over to the guy and he told him, he said, what are you going to give him for this? And he says, $25. And Dad says, well, what are you going to give him for it without the wheels? He goes, oh no, that includes the wheels, you know. And Dad says, I can sell those wheels for a lot more money than $25. So Dad said, okay, so I'll give you 50. So we loaded everything up, went on out to California, and by the time we got there, that bump on the head I got from that rolling in that truck messed up my equilibrium again. And I was dizzy for 2 or 3 days from that. So I always still maintained that ball getting hit between the eyes of that base, the softball, was what caused all the ear
problems. Wow.
Because even after that, there's 2 or 3 times the next 20 years that I bumped my head and I get a dizzy spell out of it. They x-rayed my head and everything and said they couldn't see anything wrong, but I don't know if they can see a concussion or not. I'm sure I got a concussion from that time. Let's see, the 109th Engineers in Germany, we had drills where we had to go out and set up bridges across the Rhine River in case the Russians would attack. We had to have an avenue of escape. In case they blew up the bridges, we had to be able to put bridges across. That was our job. Part of the engineering job was maintaining the highways and building bridges. So they would, the line companies would go out and set these bridges up. And they did a swinging bridge that swings from both sides of the river and meets in the middle. They put it together, swung it out there, met it, and they timed it when they did it, and it was never been done that quick before. And to this day, it's still not been done.
The record hasn't been beat. Wow.
So that was one thing that was brought up at our 109th Engineer reunion this summer, the first reunion we've had. And the captain, Chuck Lean, he was in one of the line companies. He was commanding officer in one of the line companies there. He said that it showed the regular Army people over there that were always poo-pooing the National Guard and everything, that the guards really had a good place to be there. They knew how to do their job and everything else. And they've never been able to top what we did for them.
Sounds like a good show.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably running out of tape on there now. The direct nose is plugging up.
Yeah, I noticed that. You want a pill?
What's it say here?
Yeah. 1 hour 10. I'm going to shut this down for a while. So what are you going to do the first thing you get back? You're going to go to Disneyland?
Take off my sweatshirt and then go to Disneyland.
Yeah. Put on your shorts and t-shirt.
Yeah. Just next year. Over there's your dad.
Lovely, Rachel, lovely.
Put the fingers down.
I think you're playing trick on me.
Did you have fun with Grandpa here? All right, let's smile nice. Did you have fun with Grandpa here?
What?
Did you have fun with Grandpa here?
Yeah.
When I get out to California, can I put my goosebumps away?
No.
What did you? Were you able to fit your little boxes in your suitcase?
Yeah, they're in there. Yeah, put them right in the middle.
Hi there.
Then what are we gonna do? What are you gonna do when you come out and see your California?
Me?
Yeah.
To you?
Yeah.
No, they're just guessing.
Like doing enough for you?
They're doing Jerry and Eileen down. We're going to be here to weeks.
She's a 7.
Yeah. What about
I'm a 7th grader.
7th grade.
seventh grade?
It's me.
Yeah, that's also gate 7.
Grade 7. It's you.
That's me. See? You're right there at gate 7.
6.
Minneapolis is gate 20.
Huggy.
Huggy. Huggy. Time.
Give Grandpa hugs here, sport.
Come on, kid. I'll come up and harass you again.
Say hi to everybody.
Back up, Matt. Ray.
Thank you for waiting. At this time, we'd like to continue boarding all rows on Flight 1529 to Minneapolis-St. Paul, boarding all rows.
There he went.
Shut up, Lucan. The lights, Rachel.
Those are the taxiway lights, huh?
Look at you.
They help the planes know where to drive when they're driving.
Oh.
What do you see? What do you see?
I just thought I was see the plane take off.
Pretty dark out there. Down we go.